1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, many years back, Jesus told Peter, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Newsflash, Saint Peter was the first pope of the Catholic Church, and 265 or so popes later, we now have the former Robert Provost or Pope Leo XIV, and we think that this is ultimately important. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. Viva Papa, habemus papem. Right? This debate is about Pope Leo XIV, and it's not about him in itself being good or bad, or if his papacy is good or bad. It's uniquely about where the Catholic Church is moving forward and how exactly he's going to be able to carry out and arbitrate the interests of the Church and also the legacy of Pope Francis. This is unique to his papacy, and we think that that papacy can be defined as him, as his conclave, and more importantly, as the universal Catholic Church of which many Filipinos are a part of. A few key points of framing we think are important to the round. Number 1, this is a value judgment devotion in terms of the papacy of Pope Leo, and it's essentially forward-looking in terms of what he currently is planning to do and what he can do in the future and why we should support him. The lens of support should generally be seen as the entire world. We're talking about particular Christians or the Catholic Church who subscribe to his beliefs, and maybe those individuals who are in the middle, who are a bit skeptical and unsure. The tipping point should be particularly for his papacy. This is nuanced to the direction of where they're particularly going. Because we recognize that no pope, he is not perfect, but we have to understand that a lot of the information we have right now in the media is very limited and speculative. Meaning, a lot of the political, semantic, and categorical stuff that are said about him na, he's conservative, that might be bad, and it's ultimately gonna go against more liberal values. Or, American yan, he's gonna be able to genuflect to Donald Trump. Or, oh no, he's allocated in certain scandals before that he might be covering up. All of this shit is noise, and ultimately, we wanna cut through all of that because I wanna make a very clear distinction. Robert Provost in the past is very different from who he is now and who he has to be, who is Pope Leo XIV, who was elected by the conclave of cardinals and bishops, who is now the head of the church. More than just a successor to Peter, he is a direct representative to God, who is the ultimate power and the ultimate thing that the church looks up to. The second thing we have to understand is uniquely about the nature of these particular things. It's not necessarily a binary thing, right? Because it's not like conservative and liberal exist on a spectrum. In fact, sure, he might be labeled in one way or another, but we think the fact that he is appointed as Pope now and his papacy is now a bit more universal, it's going to complement the experience he had over a decade, which we had in Peru, and a lot of the experiences he had all over the world. Meaning, 2/3 of the conclave represented the church and trusted God and the Holy Spirit to be able to choose him as a successor. Meaning, a lot of the actor of Voldemort in Conclave, the TV show, so many YouTube stuff afterwards and news are showing like, hey guys, all that shit you see on social media or in pop culture, it's different, alright? We all might have differences as cardinals, we might have beliefs, but the main metric we use to be able to choose and take oath in front of God and the Holy Spirit is who is best to be able to take on the mantle of Pope Francis and be able to deal with the evolving landscape of the church moving forward, a sort of balance between dogma, magisterium, and legacy, but also making it paved for the future. A couple of other things, right? The main argument that I'm going to forward is that it's in the interest of the particular world, primarily Catholics who actually believe in or are affected by this, to be able to support Pope Leo and his papacy. Because we have to understand that, of course, comparisons can always be made. Tagle might be better. Oh, Pizzabala, better. You can make and argue all day about who is better, who is worse. But those are all speculation, and the reality which Catholics have to understand and respect is that who we have right now is him. Meaning, getting deluded in a lot of the shoulda, woulda, coulda ultimately makes it particularly worse for the church to be able to achieve what they want. Another thing to note is we have to understand, out of all the names, why did he choose Leo XIV? Fun fact, this is very important. This was attributed to one of his favorite popes, Pope Leo XIII, who was around during the time of the Industrial Revolution and forwarded an encyclical in belief called Rerum Novarum, which is essentially meaning of new things or of revolutionary change. Meaning, Pope Leo XIV is very clear to be able to continue the legacy and path of Pope Francis, but also acknowledging a very changing world order and dynamic to do very difficult things that he has to do. Just like what Pope Leo XIII did during the Industrial Revolution, wherein he catered to a lot of things to help workers and marginalized individuals, echo what Pope Francis does with the marginalized urban poor and individuals from minorities who are pushed to the margin and disenfranchised. We think he's actually aligned, given he chose that name, to be able to take on the mantle, to be able to push what the church wants with that particular regard. Meaning, this isn't about whether he'll be successful or not. This isn't about whether he'll be perfect or not. Because the reality is that we can't tell the future and we don't know, but it's in the interest of the world and people affected to be able to support him. Why? Because the point in which you don't is exactly where you create friction and infighting within the church, which just isn't productive, right? Meaning, I'm not saying like, oh, drink all the Kool-Aid, be blind to all these realities. But try to understand first who he is and what he wants and see how you can support it, as opposed to being a dick and contrarian all the time and be able to essentially say all these shoulda, woulda, coulda. What have we told you on our side? We gave you a very clear picture of how this is so multifaceted, and ultimately it's in his interest to also forward what the conclave wants, what the Catholic Church needs, riding on what Pope Francis has done in the past in order to pave the church for a better and brighter future, which is why we are very proud to stand on side affirmative Habemus Papa. We are very proud to propose.